Derek's life had been difficult from the very beginning. Born into a broken home, he never truly knew what it meant to feel safe, cherished, or valued. His father abandoned the family when Derek was only 6 years old, leaving his mother to raise 3 children on her own. She tried her best, working long hours as a cleaner, but the strain often left her exhausted and irritable. Derek, being the middle child, often got lost in the noise, too quiet to demand attention, too timid to rebel. School was supposed to be an escape, a place where Derek could reinvent himself. But instead, it became another arena where he felt out of place. His classmates teased him for his worn-out shoes, his ill-fitting clothes, and the lunchbox filled with nothing more than bread and margarine. The ridicule eroded what little confidence he had, and soon Derek began to believe what they said about him, that he was worthless, destined to fail. His teachers, overwhelmed with large classes, rarely noticed when he struggled. The words on the blackboard blurred together, numbers seemed to mock him, and each failed exam confirmed what he already felt inside. He wasn't good enough. By the time Derek reached the end of secondary school, his grades were abysmal. While his peers celebrated scholarships and university acceptance letters, Derek found himself working odd jobs, sweeping construction sites, washing dishes at cheap restaurants, or carrying crates in hot warehouses. Each evening, Derek would walk home with aching feet and an even heavier heart. He dreamed of more, of success, of wealth, of someone who might see him as valuable. But every time he gathered the courage to approach a woman, he was rejected. Sometimes politely, often cruelly. One laughed outright when he confessed his interest, sneering at his secondhand clothes and the smell of grease clinging to his shirt. The rejections cut deeper than he admitted. They confirmed what he'd always believed, that he had nothing to offer. A light in the darkness. It was during one of those low periods that Derek met Sonia. Sonia was different. She didn't laugh at him when they first spoke. She didn't turn up her nose at his job or mock his quiet, stumbling attempts at conversation. She listened. She smiled. And in her eyes, Derek saw something he hadn't seen in years. Kindness. At first, Derek thought it was a trick. Surely she would eventually ridicule him like the others. But Sonia stayed. She encouraged him when he doubted himself, reminded him that his worth wasn't tied to his past, and even helped him study small courses online during his free time. She saw potential in him, even when he couldn't. Their bond grew deeper with time. Derek would often confide in her about his fears that he was destined to remain a nobody. Sonia would counter gently, "Derek, you're more than what you've been through. You just need a chance." One day, Sonia approached the CEO of a major contracting firm, a man named Richard Lawson. She spoke highly of Derek, his work ethic, his determination, his untapped potential. Richard was intrigued. "If this young man is half the person you say he is," Richard said, "I'll give him a shot." And just like that, Derek's life began to change. A taste of success. The contract job started modestly clerical tasks, assisting in small projects. But Derek poured himself into the work with a determination fueled by years of rejection and failure. He stayed late, asked questions, and took on responsibilities that weren't even required. Richard noticed. Within months, Derek was promoted. His salary increased, and soon he was managing small teams. For the first time in his life, Derek had money in his pocket, respect from his colleagues, and a glimmer of self-worth. When he married Sonia shortly after, it felt like a fairy tale. He bought her a modest ring and promised to take care of her the way she had always taken care of him. Sonia, glowing with pride, believed in his promises wholeheartedly. As Derek's income grew, so did his tastes. He bought expensive watches, sleek cars, designer shoes. People who once ignored him now paid attention. Women who had rejected him in the past suddenly found excuses to flirt with him. The admiration was intoxicating. At first, Derek resisted. He told himself that he loved Sonia, that she was the reason he had come this far. But slowly, his ego grew. He began to crave the validation of others, the glances, the whispers, the admiration. When women approached him, he no longer walked away. Instead, he basked in it. The drift. Sonia noticed the changes. Derek was coming home late, smelling of perfume. He spent weekends traveling with clients who always happened to be glamorous young women. Money that could have gone into their household went into vacations, gifts, and parties. "Derek," Sonia pleaded one night, tears in her eyes. "I didn't stand by you so you could throw everything away. I don't care about the cars or the watches, I just want my husband back. But Derek waved her off. You don't understand, Sonia. This is what success looks like. People respect me now. I can't go back to being that nobody I was. You were never a nobody, she whispered. But you're becoming someone I don't even recognize. Her words didn't reach him. Derek was too consumed by the attention, the validation, the thrill of living a life he'd once thought impossible. The breaking point. Eventually, Sonia couldn't take it anymore. She confided in Richard Lawson, the same CEO who had given Derek his first chance. She explained everything. The neglect, the infidelity, the recklessness. Richard listened quietly, his expression unreadable. When Derek showed up to work one Monday morning, he was called into Richard's office. I gave you an opportunity, Derek, Richard said sternly. But you've squandered it. Not just professionally, but personally. You don't respect your wife, and you don't respect this company. You're fired. The words hit Derek like a hammer. Within weeks, his lifestyle crumbled. Without the contract job, the cars were repossessed, the vacations stopped, and the women disappeared as quickly as they had arrived. Desperate, Derek turned back to Sonia, begging her to forgive him. He promised to change, to rebuild, to become the man she had once believed in. But Sonia's heart had hardened. She had endured too much, given too much, and been repaid with betrayal. She left Derek, and in a twist of fate, she found solace in Richard Lawson. Unlike Derek, Richard treated her with respect, kindness, and stability. Their relationship blossomed, and within a year, Sonia married Richard. The descent. Derek was devastated. Seeing Sonia with Richard ignited a bitterness in him that grew with each passing day. He would lurk outside their home, watching from the shadows as Sonia laughed freely in ways she never had with him. He convinced himself that Sonia had betrayed him, that she had planned this all along. Jealousy curdled into obsession. Derek began to follow them, trailing their car, snapping photos, replaying every moment in his head. At night, he would drink himself into a stupor, muttering about how Sonia should have been his, how Richard had stolen everything. Eventually, the obsession turned darker. Derek began to fantasize about revenge. He sketched out plans, imagining ways to hurt Richard, to make Sonia regret leaving him. He purchased a knife, telling himself it was for protection, though deep down he knew why he had it. But his behavior did not go unnoticed. Neighbors saw him lurking, and Sonia began to feel unsafe. Richard, ever pragmatic, hired private security. One evening, as Derek crept near their home with a weapon tucked under his jacket, the police intervened. He was arrested before he could act. The final lesson. In the cold cell of a police station, Derek finally faced the truth. He had been given love, support, and a second chance at life, and he had thrown it away for ego and vanity. Sonia hadn't betrayed him, he had betrayed himself. But realization came too late. Sonia had moved on. She was loved, respected, and cherished by Richard, living the life Derek once had but never appreciated. As Derek sat alone, staring at the cracked ceiling of his cell, he understood the cruel irony of his journey. He had once been a man with nothing who gained everything, only to lose it all because he could never silence the voice inside him that whispered he wasn't enough. And so Derek remained, haunted not just by what he had lost, but by what he had destroyed with his own hands.